Welcome to another series in Lexington Remembers. Today we are very happy to be here at the new community farm. And we are fortunate today to have Janet Kern, who's really the mother of this whole project. And we'd like to share Janet is going to share some information about the development of this place and how it happened. Janet, how did it happen? I know that the Busas were giving it up, and how did you manage to have this happen? It's wonderful.
Well, thank you, Mary. What I tell people is it was not just me. It's been a real community effort over the last 5 years. And as Mary said, this is formerly known as Busa Farm, and in fact it's been farmed as Busa Farm since 1916. The Busa family has been farming this land up until this year, when it became Lexington Community Farm. The town of Lexington purchased this land in 2009 as a result of the Busa family needing to sell it, sort of the plight of the small family farm that is very common in New England and around the country, where families get bigger and the land that they've been farming on stays the same size or shrinks because of development. So this land at its height was 12 acres, and which is already tiny, and it is now about 8 acres, including the structures that are on the site and the farmland. So in 2009, the Busa family needed to sell it, and the town of Lexington knew that they had a wonderful opportunity to buy the land. And as a neighbor, I live 3 houses away, and I've always appreciated this wonderful small farm in the midst of the suburbs. And I got a notice from the selectmen to come to a meeting of abutters and neighbors to hear about the plans that they had for purchasing this land. And at the meeting, I heard possible plans for using the land for any of the purposes allowed by the Community Preservation Act, which are open space, affordable housing, historic preservation, and ball fields. So I know
that
there
were a variety of options available, and each option had its backers.
Right. I should probably just say a little bit about the Community Preservation Act, since that really is the reason that the town was able to purchase this land at all, especially for people that might not be aware of the Community Preservation Act. The town of Lexington adopted the Community Preservation Act, I believe, in 2005 or 2006, and what that meant was that we voted to, as residential property owners, to place 3% of our taxes into a fund that would be used for particular purposes that would benefit the community into the future, things that there might not be funds for in the annual yearly budget. So
that was just the neighbors? I mean, was it the
whole?
No,
this is the whole town.
All
the
right.
whole town voted for this.
All right.
And we have a committee, the Community Preservation Committee, that hears every year proposals for how to use this money, but they need to fall into one of 4 categories. Open space, which it can include ball fields, recreational fields, open space, affordable housing, community housing, historic preservation, and open space and recreation go together. So an open space is very commonly used for conservation land, and the town has purchased a lot of conservation land with these funds. And I should also say that this fund gets matched by the state. This is a state act, the Community Preservation Act, and the state matches, at the time, they matched almost 100%. Anyway, there's a fund that gets matched by the state. So, the town looked at this land and said, what a wonderful opportunity for our community. And the ideas that they had initially were for recreation fields and affordable housing. And as a neighbor, I went to a meeting and I heard their ideas, and I suggested that there might be a way to save it as a farm, which is something that we hadn't done before in Lexington with Community Preservation Act funds. We had saved land for conservation purposes, but the idea of saving a farm was sort of not very well understood. And even by me, I didn't understand exactly what it would mean. It just seemed to me that there must be a way of preserving this land and keeping it in agricultural use. I had the benefit of appreciating what small farms can mean to communities because I helped start the farmers market in Lexington, and so I got to know some small farmers. And and because I've lived so near this farm, I just was so lucky to have that experience. So I thought there must be a way. And as it turns out, there are towns all around us that have these things called community farms, that are farms that are nonprofits that are run for public benefit. And you say, well, what kind of public benefit? Any kind of public benefit that you can imagine or that a community could imagine a town farm might provide. So many community farms provide produce to low-income people, to their food pantries. They provide education, they provide volunteer opportunities. Again, anything you can imagine that you could use a farm for.
Not to interrupt
Yes.
you, but on your statement that you just made, the educational part of this, I mean, I think that is so important. And I've been here when you have had the students here, and
Right.
it's an eye-opener
Right.
for them.
Right. It is.
Because I grew up in the country, so I knew what a garden was and so forth. But this is just a wonderful opportunity for the youth of Lexington.
Thank you. And we want, so Mary's right. At Lexington Community Farm, in our first year, our belief was that education in all its forms, not just in a classroom setting, but hands-on farm-based education could provide a new dimension both for youth and also for adults.
Right.
And so our goal is to have this farm be a resource in the town for education about farms, farming, gardening, organic gardening, all those things that we may have lost a little bit in our current generation and that we really feel we need to take hold of again for the future. So, so our education is a big part of what our goals are, and yet it takes many forms. Just coming here and volunteering and being in the fields with professional farmers who know so much more than you can imagine one could know about plants and soil and what it takes to actually grow healthy organic food is an experience in and of itself. It's an educational experience, and formal programs where we can actually have hands-on with children and adults learning to plant the seeds, to compost, to prepare the soil, and to ultimately grow vegetables and eat them and share them with others in the community, those who are not so fortunate to be able to purchase them. And all those experiences make it a community farm, and one that we're so proud of, to be able to provide those different education opportunities.
Now, I realize that you had to go through quite a bit. I know you spoke at a town meeting and so forth to get the town to approve this.
I can
your
tell you a little bit
efforts
about
were,
that.
Yes, a little.
Yeah, so it was a long process, and it's hard to believe that, it's been 5 years since all this started, but it was a really wonderful time. I mean, it's both a wonderful time and a difficult time for a lot of people to learn about how this could happen, how to make this happen. And as I said at the beginning, many community members really helped make this happen. And the way we did it was we just believed that there must be a way, and we looked around at other towns and we talked to people who had done it before. And the most important relationship that we made was with Waltham Fields Community Farm, who had been doing this for almost 20 years. They were already farming, donating food to food pantries, providing education, hands-on education, farmer training on their property in Waltham. And so we learned from them, and the community members wrote letters, stood up at meetings, and explained not what they didn't want, why they didn't talk. They talked very positively and with lots of passion about why they thought we should do a community farm here. And so with the numbers of people learning together and helping the town through letters to the Minuteman, letters to the selectmen, helping everyone learn about what these possibilities could be, we were able to make it happen. So the summary of the process was, we had an idea, we brought it forward to the selectmen. The selectmen said, well, we need to hear all ideas. So they formed a committee called the Busa Land Use Proposal Committee, and they invited anyone in town who had an idea for what we could do with this property to come and tell them. And then this committee took all the ideas, including many citizens who said we should have a community farm. They took those ideas, they evaluated them, and they ultimately made a recommendation to the selectmen. Then the selectmen invited people additionally to come and speak with them directly, which they did. And finally, in 2012, the selectmen were convinced that this land should stay as a farm, as a community farm, and with some affordable housing as well. So that was in 2012. Then the selectmen needed to decide who was going to run the community farm.
Right.
Because they couldn't just give it to us just because it was our idea. So they put out what's called an RFP, a request for proposals, that invited anyone, any organization, to propose how they would use this land for benefit of the community, and especially for providing education opportunities. So by that time, we had started, I gathered together with some neighbors, and then increasingly some people that were passionate about this all over town, in Lexington and in Arlington. And we started a nonprofit called Lexington Community Farm Coalition. So by 2012, we were a 501c3 nonprofit, and so in 2013, we were able to then submit our proposal for the community farm, which included many of the ideas that we had had for these years that we had learned might be possible, but they were grounded in actually a business plan, and they were also grounded in the fact that we were very fortunate to have Community Farms Outreach, the organization that runs Waltham Fields Community Farm. They agreed to actually be the farming, do the farming here. So we were, as a citizens group, we might have a lot of passion and interest and concern and for keeping it a farm, but we certainly had no experience running a farm. And we knew that we needed people who did.
Along with this came some buildings also, right?
This
So,
land.
I mean, I know you have the store up front, and then you have a variety of buildings. Did those come with
They did. It's the way this came about. The town was really only looking at the land because they weren't originally thinking of keeping it as a farm, as a working farm. They weren't really focused on the lack of infrastructure here. So yes, there are buildings, but there's not very much. There is a glass greenhouse that's behind me here. That's an old, it's old, it does not hold heat very well, but it's what we have. There is a building that, as Mary said, is the farm stand, and behind that is a little room that's a walk-in cooler. Refrigeration, as you can imagine, is pretty critical for a farm. And then behind that is what we call the wash station, the washroom. That is the extent of the infrastructure here. There's also some plastic greenhouses, and obviously there's farm equipment. But that, because it's not part of the land, permanent structures, all that is actually still owned by the Busa family.
I see.
In order for us to start the farm, we needed equipment. We needed to keep those plastic greenhouses especially, and so we have an agreement with them to lease that equipment and hopefully purchase it, purchase what we would like to purchase, especially the greenhouses, when we're able to raise enough money.
Now, how do you get people to work in your gardens and so forth? And you must have a committee, do you? Or
Okay.
what do
so
you
the
have?
first thing I should say is the community farm is, it's really a farm. It's not, community gardens are gardens that also wonderful opportunities to grow, but they're where families usually rent a spot and have their own garden.
Yes.
This as a farm is on a bigger scale, and it's so so the farm itself is professionally run, and and the challenge of running a farm business where you have farmers that are paid is a significant one. And so we talk a lot about it being a sustainable farm, and our goal for having it be a model for a small farm being sustainable, because after all, the Busa family, as a good example, was not able to sustain it into the future. So the question is, how can we do that?
I see.
And yes, it does require volunteers, but those volunteers who are in the fields are overseen by professional farm managers who have spent the winter months planning their planting plan, what seeds to grow, where to grow them, what gets harvested when, how to use the land efficiently so that they can grow enough crops to sell,
Right.
so that their salaries get paid. So a sustainable farm business is one where the sales of the food that they grow pay for all the operating costs, including their salaries. So we have lots of volunteer opportunities, though. I do want to make sure everyone
Yes.
hears that. There's opportunities to volunteer in the fields with the farmers. There's opportunities to volunteer with our organization, Lexington Community Farm Coalition, which we just call LexFarm. And actually, Mary knows this because Mary was part of the volunteer crew that helped renovate and spruce up the inside of our farm stand before we opened this past April. So what you see here, if you come to Lexington Community Farm and walk around, you'll see a combination of a professionally run farm where every plant that you see growing is a result of our professional farmers knowing exactly what they're doing with organic
Obviously,
farming.
it's amazing.
But the infrastructure, the non-farmed pieces, the farm stand and the buildings is in cases where we needed the roof replaced. We needed professionals to do that, so we used our money that we've been fundraising, to do the professional work. But we've had volunteers do everything from paint to replacing windows, to replacing the garage doors, to putting up new siding. So we are definitely counting on members of the community who have skills that might not be farming to be a part of the success.
Or repair equipment or whatever. That's
yeah.
one of the goals
Yeah.
that we hope to touch upon and have people donate their time and so forth.
Right.
Because machinery in itself needs to be repaired or adjusted
And our
or
farmers do
maintained,
know,
I'll
and our
say.
farmers do know how to maintain
Yes.
the tractors. I mean, it's amazing how much farmers know. It goes way beyond, planting. They know how to maintain. They know electric. They know a lot. But yes, we need members of the community who may have, may be retired, but are professionals in an area to help because we can't pay for everything, and that would not be sustainable. So definitely part of a community farm are people who are offering their professional skills as well as their time to do something that they believe is important for our community.
And when I came here to work several times with the people, I mean, a lovely group of people, and they were dedicated to making this work.
And they were all,
really, it was amazing.
And
the cooperation, I mean, they were just so enthusiastic, and
it
really
is one
wonderful.
of the joys for me, I have to say, is that in addition to really caring about our local food system and our small farms,
educating
youth and adults,
Yes.
I really, the idea of, there's nothing better than having everyone come together to work on something that they believe in, and that community spirit that you have when you do that is just, there's nothing like it. And it was a joy. It's energizing. I tell people, I spend a lot of time behind my computer, emails and all kinds of things, and I come outside. It's when I meet with people and I see people on the farm, both enjoying it for its beauty, but also enjoying working and helping, then I'm energized. Then I can go back to my computer and keep working.
Well, I am impressed with everything that is growing here. It's just plain
It is
beautiful. You must be so happy. I mean, I've never seen a place with such healthy looking flowers, vegetables, whatever.
I
mean,
feel
you must be
so lucky.
thrilled.
I feel so.
What is in this soil?
Well, you know, first of all, this soil, you're absolutely right. It's all in the soil. This land, this farm has been farmed and tended. This soil has been tended for almost 300 years, for over 300 years. The Busa family, of course, has kept it, you know, going for almost 100 years, which in and of itself is an amazing feat, to have all these houses built up around it. But this soil is rich and deep and healthy, and our farmers now are adding the next layer of health to the soil by using organic practices, which means that they don't put any synthetic inputs into the soil. So the fertilizer is compost. It's soil itself that has been enriched with organic matter. And so that soil is enriched. We'll take, you know, we're building our own compost here so that the land will feed itself. And that is part of sustainable agriculture. So yes, all those who have come into the farm stand, we have a program called Community Supported Agriculture, which is, again, it's a business model. It's another way of engaging the community, those who are able to purchase shares of the farm or farm produce in advance in the winter months. If they purchase shares in advance so that the farm can have money for seed and for all those operating costs in order to do the planting, and then the CSA shareholders come for 20 weeks throughout the season when the food starts coming out of the ground. So you have CSA is basically a business model that has saved small farms because the cash flow for, you know, when you have the vegetables, you already needed the cash to start the farm. So all our CSA shareholders now they're picking up their shares every week. They come and they see what's been grown and harvested, and we have it all laid out in the back of the farm stand. We also have farm produce available for the public to just purchase like you would at any farm stand, but these shareholders have prepaid and now they're coming to pick up the bounty. So this week, for example, I think this was week 6. We're in mid-July, so we're in week 6 of the CSA pickup, and they see a blackboard that shows that they were able to get, this week they're able to take up to 6 cucumbers and 3 zucchini and 3 summer squash, and they can come out into the field and they can pick their own green beans, and they can come out into the field and they can pick their own cherry tomatoes. So that's also, you know, part of the joy of you know, bringing people onto the farm who have already invested in it in the winter, and now their dreams are coming true.
That is a wonderful plan. I like that.
So
next year I'll have
all
to
of
do
those
that.
people, and we sold out our shares. We had a little over 200 shares that we were able to provide. You know, you can only provide as much as you can grow, and also for the farm stand, and also for food donations. But we were able to sell out in early March, which was just a huge thing for our first year. So, but these CSA shareholders are coming in, and they are doing exactly what you said. They are just, their eyes are open, and they're saying, wow, this produce is the most beautiful they've ever seen. And again, I just pass that right over to our wonderful farm managers. It's a wonderful married couple named Dan and Erin Roberts, and they have years of organic farming experience, 6 years at Waltham Fields Community Farm. And again, that organization is the organization that is actually doing this. So we are so grateful for that partnership. We're grateful for this amazing couple, and we're very grateful to the community for all its support.
Well, I think I'll speak for the community itself. I know the community appreciates so much what you have done, and your group that is working with you, whether you call it a committee or whatever. I mean, it's just wonderful. The people here are wonderful, and what you have produced is unbelievable.
Well,
and to think last winter it was nothing.
Well, last winter, I do want to say thank you for saying that, and I'll just say that last winter, of course, it had still been farmed by Dennis Busa, and he is still. I also want to really say how grateful we are to the Busa family and to Dennis Busa in particular, who continued to stay on this year as an employee of Community Farms Outreach to help Dan and Erin learn, the land, and learn what grows here, and also so that he could be one of the farmers as he was able to do. So we're very grateful to the Busa family. We're very grateful for Dennis Busa and his siblings, and his parents and his grandparents and his great grandparents, who actually
Now, don't forget the dog.
And the dog. We'll talk about Flora. But very grateful to the family for stewarding this land, for keeping this land. We wouldn't be here if they hadn't just, kept farming it and caring for it, and through some very hard times. And finally, through actually last year, Dennis continued to farm it as the town was taking its time to decide what to do with it. And for farmland to sit fallow for any time is not only a crime, but also makes it that much more difficult to bring it back the next year. So we are just so grateful to his family and for the rich history that this land has. I mean, most of the equipment here is his equipment, and obviously we couldn't do what we're doing here without him.
Well, thank you very much, and this will be I know the town will appreciate this, and people who are not aware of all that's going on and all that you people have done. I think I can speak for the community in saying the town appreciates what you people have done, and it's just beautiful, and everybody should come.
Yes, thank you, Mary. Yes, so right near the Arlington Reservoir, 52 Lowell Street in Lexington, used to be Busa Farm, now is Lexington Community Farm. Thank you.